Hi guys, it's Nicole with Aurelian Coaching. Thanks for joining this week. There is no new blog topic this week. This week I really want to talk about two mindset blocks in particular that I have been finding people are really grappling with in shifting from trying to, moving from managing their careers mostly by default, basically just taking what comes at them, to trying to manage their careers more proactively. And that is what I'm always trying to help people do. Now, as you guys know, I am focused on mid-career professionals. And the reason I am not an executive coach and I'm not a coach for people just getting started is because in my experience, my personal experience, as well as what I've seen for all the people that I've managed over the years, the people that have been my own clients over the years, mid-career is where all the stress is. It's just, sometimes it just feels so completely unmanageable. Because what's happening at mid-career? For most people, you are at that point where you're starting to hit a ceiling in terms of advancement. So you're looking to push into more advanced or senior leadership, but you're coming up against some stumbling blocks, or you've been doing something for a while and it doesn't hold for you anymore. Either you're bored of it, you realize you don't like it, or for whatever reason, maybe you fell into it, right? And now you want to do something that where you can find something where you can really thrive. And there are all these other personal things that are happening at mid-career as well. For a lot of folks, if you're married, you've been married for a while. You've been married for 10 years by this point. Maybe you got young kids at home. If you're in the sandwich generation, like I am, now your parents are getting older, and so there are some decisions that need to be made for them. It's a lot. It's a lot at mid-career. And so this is my sweet spot. This is where I want to help people in mid-career. So when people come to me because they are interested in making longer-term decisions about their career, because they feel like they need to make longer-term decisions about everything else going on, I am finding that there are two things. There are two mindset blocks that need to be resolved first before people can shift to managing their careers more proactively. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today. Now, the first of these is the blame game. Now, that sounds harsh. And when I initially talk to people about this, people get very defensive, right? No. I don't blame anybody for anything. That's why I came to you. And that's why I sought a career coach, because I'm trying to be proactive and I take ownership. Listen, if at any point your diagnosis of your situation is that you've come to a point in your career where there are just no more opportunities at this job, or no more opportunities at this company, or everything else is fine except your manager is inexperienced or is micromanaging, right? Or you have toxic coworkers, or company leadership is misguided, or whatever. Clients are demanding, your travel schedule is aggressive, all of the things, okay, that you would consider contributing factors to you being stuck, to you being in this place where you can't move forward. This is what I call the blame game. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that any of those things, any of those external factors, what you're saying about them is untrue. I'm not saying, in fact, 100% of it might be true. it might be true all at the same time, okay? That you have the demanding clients and the aggressive travel schedule and the micromanager and all the things, all the things. All of it might be true, and none of those things are the reason you're not managing your career more proactively. None of those things are the reason you're stuck. None of those things are the reason that you're not where you thought you would be or not where you want to be. Okay. So when you consider all of the factors that impact your career, and we've talked about all of those other factors, right? But you are also a factor in your career, okay? So of all of those things, if you had to name the thing that you have the most control over, what would that thing be? It would be you, right? You have the most control over you. Okay. Now, it's very interesting when I ask this question sometimes, and I'm curious what your own answer was in your head when I asked the question, because I have gotten a whole host of different answers. When I ask people, of all of these factors impacting your career, which one do you have the most control over? People say, well, I can control all of it, or I can control none of it, or I can control 50% of it, or all of these things. This is fascinating to me. And for a long time, I wondered why I was getting such variability. And I think I resolved it. In my last few client engagements, what I have found is people are conflating this concept of influence with control. Okay. I'm talking about control, which means that you determine the outcomes. You determine the outcomes. So how much control do you have? Very little. You have very little, if any, control over all these external factors, right? You probably, listen, you have little to no control over the things that you think you should have control over, like your kids. People think that they should be able to control their kids. You have no control over your kids. No. Listen, this is different than influence. Some people think that when I ask that question, I'm talking about influence. Influence means that you're getting other people to consider something that you want them to do. But you actually have no control over them, over that outcome. They have to make their own decisions, right? So when you think about it that way, when you remove the concept of influence and only think about what you can determine the exact outcomes of, there's only one thing you can control, and that's yourself. Okay, so now, so follow the logic with me. Okay, so now that if you agree with me, if you're tracking with me, that you can't actually control all these external things and you can only control yourself, now the question becomes, of that, how much of it can you control? How much of yourself and your decisions can you control? Oh, this got really interesting too, because I also thought the answer was obvious, right? So some people will say, and some people answer the question because they know what the answer is that I'm looking for, but they don't really believe it, right? So some people say, oh, well, 100%. I actually control 100% of everything about me, because they know that's the answer that I'm looking for. But some people are like, well, I don't control 100% of everything, because this is where I get to the buts, where people know the answer is 100%, right? But then I get this, but my spouse or my partner, but my manager, but my coworker, but my client. now you're circling back to that blame game again, where you are giving others control. No, that's not true. You listen, if you can't control other people, they can't control you either. Okay? That it works both ways. Okay. So, logically, now we have you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. And you can control 100% of yourself. 100%. Okay. The buts are still there. They're still a factor. Of course, you are interacting with all of these other factors that influence how you manage your career, right? Including your spouse and your partner. And yeah, you can't run off and make a bold decision without consulting the other people in your household, okay? Of course, I would never suggest that. But when you think about what to do when you are making a decision, okay? When you are investing time and energy and sometimes finances, when you're thinking about investing money in solving a problem, in moving from just being at the effect of things in your career and trying to manage your career more proactively, when you're trying to make this decision, you have to make a decision on where to focus, right? Where to allocate time, resources, other things. Now, when you think about investment, okay, think about money is the easiest thing, right? That's the most common example. So when you think about investing money, what is the number one factor in terms of outcomes that you want to see? You want to see a return on that investment, right? You want to see more dollars coming out than the dollars that you put in. Okay. The same thing applies to ourselves. And yet, this is a huge hurdle for some people to make. So they may be tracking with me. Intellectually, they understand and appreciate this concept of what you can control and how much you can control. But then when it comes to making decisions and investing time and energy in the one lever that has the greatest torque for you, which is yourself, now people have a real problem with investing. People have a lot of trouble sometimes investing in themselves, even though they know intellectually, right, that investing in themselves, that's going to be the one thing that is going to be the greatest factor in outcomes for your career. Okay. So I try to have people think about this in a different way. What I want you to do is think about time, energy, even financial. Think about how you want to invest in yourself, because you are going to be the greatest factor in determining how your career plays out from here on out. And all of the external negativity or uncertainty may be true. All of those things may be true. And it still doesn't impact your career as much as how you react to things, how you interpret things, how you behave, what action you take, or what inaction, right? You may decide not to act on something, right? Think about it that way, and you might actually see that shift that you need in mindset in order to go after and kind of create and craft the career that you really want over time. Okay, so if you are interested in joining my email list, I will have a tool that goes out every week that's going to be around the topic of the week. I'll still send out an email, even though there isn't a specific blog post this week. You can go to aureliancoaching.com/email. Go ahead and sign up, and then I'll have a couple of questions, some exercises for you to actually work through some of these mindset roadblocks. So I hope that was helpful. I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.